So some of the questions and comments that I've been seeing in chat and in the discussions of the last couple of days here have really focused around um, what do we do after we get through the value planning stage, or after we figure out kind of what our innovative multi-benefit solution might look like. What can we do to help make sure those processes really get, or those projects really get implemented on the ground? And Lenny and Ted and Andrea have showed us how doing a good job with community engagement, doing a good job of inclusive and engaging visioning process is a really big important strategy for doing that. And it's one of the reasons we love working with Andrea and the CSI team, is that getting folks involved in that balcony view really helps us navigate. As I said yesterday, when we hit the rocks further down the stream sometimes, having everybody in the boat helping us navigate through that can be super, super helpful. But there's more to it than that, right? And we've done this work with communities for a long time now. And so I want to share with you all today just some of the strategies or some of the challenges that we see communities really start to face when they get to the implementation phase of these big, unique or small, unique, innovative, multi-benefit projects. And then we're not going to wallow in those frustrating challenges, because that would be more of a happy hour than a webinar. We're going to focus on solutions. So what can we do to navigate some of these challenges as a community, as a set of partners, whether we're infrastructure providers or nonprofit partners or regulators or funders and consultants or whatever. And I just want to note, because we've been in a different infrastructure realm for a little while here, I bring a pretty strong water infrastructure bias to the work that I do in this realm. And so I know some of you do too, and you'll be able to see that bias a little bit in my presentation compared with our last example. But from working a lot with the CSI team, I'm pretty sure that the ideas that we're sharing here today are pretty broadly applicable across infrastructure types. But I'd love to have your feedback from folks that work in other sectors, how this stuff is resonating. So we have an opportunity in our last hour or so here today to really spend some time recognizing and understanding the kinds of big categories of challenges communities face in trying to implement these things. We're going to identify some useful strategies to help get folks over the finish line. And I'm hoping that you'll also share back some of your ideas, both on challenges and strategies here, and start thinking about how to connect this with your work. So just to reorient ourselves here to the figure, the graphic we've been using all along to orient ourselves. We've been on a deep dive in value planning and sort of how you get through that pre-design and visioning phase in a way that really brings you the best multi-benefit, multi-sector view that you can. And we're focusing now on what we call special support or special implementation support. If anybody has a brilliant branding idea for this, please drop it in the chat, because I always have trouble describing it in a way that really resonates. But I know a lot of you are infrastructure providers, and I know that, or work closely with infrastructure providers. So I think you'll know what I'm talking about as we dive in here. But what are the challenges and what are the strategies we use to get out of them when we hit those rocks? So Lenny talked a little bit at the beginning yesterday, I think, about how sometimes it feels like when we're trying to implement these solutions, it's like we're doing it on a stage that was built for another play. And I sometimes tell our partners in local government, imagine you're standing on the set of this like big production of Cats. You've got the set, you've got the scenery, all the other actors are dressed like cats, you've got the props, everything's there, and you want to act out Hamlet. You can stand there and act out Hamlet if you want to, and it might be a better outcome in some way for folks in your community, but it's going to take a whole lot of effort to make it stick. So when we ask our local partners to take on these kinds of innovative approaches and start moving forward with the kind of, honestly brilliant community-driven solutions that come out of stuff like the value planning process, we're asking a lot. And for those of you that work for local government and utilities, I just want to recognize we're asking a lot of you. And that's why we're here trying to come up with some strategies to try to help you. We're asking you to stand on a stage that was built for traditional infrastructure and act out something completely new and different. And it's really hard to do. And it's really important work too. So one of the ways that we can help is to kind of help you navigate through these challenges and develop some tools that help our local government partners or our infrastructure providers navigate through these. So as our team at Willamette Partnership sat down and thought about kind of the unique kinds of this weird nerdy brand of technical assistance that we offer mostly to water infrastructure providers in trying to plan and implement these kinds of projects, we organized the common challenges that we see into these 4 categories. And, you know, everything we do eventually becomes a Venn diagram, and I'm sure this will too. So there's a lot of overlap and intersection between these categories too. But these are the 4 we use for our framing. So cultural, interjurisdictional or jurisdictional, funding, and policy. And I'm going to work through each of those in a little bit more detail, and also recognize that, you know, when a project hits the skids in one category, it has a way of creating challenges in the other categories too. So I recognize there were some questions and comments over the last day or so here too on funding in particular. So I'm going to try to spend a little bit more time there, and I'm kind of a policy wonk, so I'll probably spend a little bit more time there too.